What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Inner Voice. For those of you who are new to the channel and would like to know what it's about and what you can expect from this podcast, please refer back to our introduction video. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But on today's episode, we're going to continue on from our last session where we're still getting to know your host. And like I mentioned last time, it's going to be a series of videos on our given topic, which is the lessons I had to unlearn from my childhood. So today is going to be part 2. Let's get straight into it. Now, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to get straight into the points. But as mentioned last time, I've got a big list that I need to go through. So just to recap, as I said previously, that we're going to go in ascending order. So from the points that affected me the least to the things that affected me the most. So the 3 points we mentioned last time, the first point was gossiping. The second point was constantly blaming. The third point was segregation. We discussed them points in detail and I explained how it had an effect on me and my household growing up. So like I said, if you've not watched the previous video, the last episode, you need to go back and watch it in order for you to catch up to today. So on today's video, I'm just going to get straight into my first point. Well, if we continue on from last time, it's the 4th point, but today's first. So let's get cracking. So number 1 on the list today, number 4 from last time, is we grew up in a household where feelings didn't matter. Me, my siblings, we all grew up without emotional discipline. We didn't know how to regulate our emotions in the right way. We used to be hot and cold. We never knew how to act appropriately and have the right responses to the right emotions. You know, somebody was sad. We didn't know how to respond to them. We didn't know how to give them a hug or to comfort them with the right words. If we were sad, it was difficult for us to put that across in the right way, like to say, oh, I'm sad about this. We never really used terms like that. I'm upset with you. You know, like that sort of language didn't exist in my home growing up. I never really witnessed it from my siblings or my brother, my parents. Like, we didn't used to say to each other, like, we're sad, we're upset with you for this, or we're disappointed. Instead, we'd have these sharp comments or these digs or occasional outbursts of anger. We never knew how to appropriately express our negative emotions. You understand? And it was the same on the positive side. Like, it was extreme levels of happiness or giddiness. And it was like a way of covering up for all the times we weren't being serious or we weren't being empathetic, sympathetic, understanding, you know, all these other elements of interactions. We didn't know how to portray that because we weren't expressing our emotions in the right way. It was difficult. Like, even as a kid, like I remember, like if I was upset about something or confused or disappointed or angry and I tried to go and ask my mom or one of my elder siblings, they'd always brush it under the carpet and tell me not to think about it or not to worry about it. But it's difficult, you know, like if a child is upset about something or angry or they've got questions that they're asking, and if they're open enough to ask their guardians and their parents, etc., for, you know, like some reassurance or some comfort or some wisdom, like you're supposed to educate them and teach them in that moment. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I didn't really get that, and it was hard. Like, not just me, but when I look around and I used to watch my siblings, it was the same for them. It was hard, like to understand that. So like, even as I've grown up and I've become an adult and I've got my own partner now and I've my own kids, like I'm unlearning that behavior. Like, I'm trying my best to respond to them in the right way. So if they're upset about something, I've not grown up with, you know, that behavior of comforting someone, like giving them a hug when they're upset or asking them, are you okay? Do you need me to do anything? Do you know the words of comfort when somebody's upset? Like, I'm practicing now, like as a married man with kids, like I'm doing that with my partner, with my kids. But it was extremely difficult for me to do at first, I'll be honest. And it was hard for me to do. My wife had to teach me how to do it because I was still practicing certain behaviors from my upbringing. Like I said, I had to unlearn that behavior in order to implement a new one. So that's just talking about in terms of sadness. But like I said, it could be the same with anger. When you're disappointed or you're upset with someone and you continuously bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up, and one day you have an outburst. That is something that I've done over the years on multiple occasions. Look what happened to me before, before I got into my 20s, and I ended up getting locked up and stuff because that was the sort of behavior I used to do. I used to express my anger in the wrong way. And instead of just sitting here being negative, I can even switch it to the positive side. Like, we don't know how to behave when we're extremely happy. We might get so carried away that we say things that we're not supposed to. Does that make sense? Like, we end up saying things that we're not supposed to say in the moments, and we upset people or we expose things and things like that. Like, it's a common thing for us to do in like my home, like where I've come from. So that's something that I've been unlearning, and I've been learning through my family now with my wife and kids to do the opposite, or to keep it balanced at least. So keep that in mind. Like, you can't change the family you've come from and the things that you've learned, but you can change the family that you create, the things that you teach them. Whatever you create in your home as an adult, where you're the shepherd, you're the leader, you're the alpha, you can change the patterns that you came from and implement new ones. Keep that in mind. Feelings do matter. And it doesn't matter if you're a female or a male. It doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult. Every human being has feelings, and they matter. You have to listen to your heart. Doesn't mean that you have to express them in the wrong way, but you can learn how to understand them and comfort yourself. Keep that in mind. The next point on my list is hypervigilance. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means just feeling like you're on edge all the time. It's a term that's associated and used with PTSD and trauma, etc. And to be honest, like, when I've been to my sessions with professionals, they've obviously mentioned that I have it, but it's not just a fancy little term or something. It's not just these words. Like, it's easy to hear the words and just think, yeah, that person's on edge. But to be in it, to feel it, like, we all have moments where you feel like you're on edge, when your back's up against the wall, or like somebody might attack you. You feel on edge a little bit, or something might break, the glass is just about to tip over because the kids are messing around on the table. People feel on edge, but to live like that constantly, fight or flight mode, to have this adrenaline always surging through your body and this constant feeling of anxiety for absolutely no reason, it's hard to live like that. And it's not just me that's grown up in a household like that. I've seen my siblings have that same behavior. My siblings do the same stuff. I've grown up watching them do it. So, and not just watching them do it as a kid, but I still see them display the same behaviors now. So hypervigilance, you have to understand, and living on edge is a very, very dangerous thing. It's so uncomfortable. You're always snappy. You're always you're basically not fully present or aware of your surroundings or situations or what's going on. You do things like, instead of responding intelligently, you react impulsively, and that's not a good thing to be doing. Like, don't get me wrong, like, in certain scenarios, like if you're out in public and there's a dangerous situation, yeah, react impulsively means to go off your instincts, right? But in your home, when you're raising your kids, when like, you've got things to do at home, or even, just going back to the public, if there's no danger and you're just trying to get things done, living on edge is not healthy. And I could tell you that confidently because I've lived like that most of my life. And it's something that I am trying to unlearn, but I'll be honest with this, I need professional help. Religion's helped me a lot. medications helped me over the years, and like my partner, have been with someone like as amazing as my wife. Like she's very understanding, forgiving, compassionate, and she's helped me learn things about myself. So having someone supportive like that, turning to Allah and seeking help through religion and through patience and prayer, they help. But when something's part of your character and it's been part of your character from your childhood, something like that, it's not easy to just break that pattern. And I'm telling you from first-hand experience, it's hard. And I see some of my older siblings that are much older than me, like they're still displaying them same traits to this day. But the difference between them and me is not the age. It's not. The difference is that I want to make a difference. I'm intentionally trying to change that. Whatever it is in your life that you don't like, you have to intentionally make a decision to change it. If you don't, then it's going to always remain the same. There's a quote that I've seen, like Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Do you understand that? Like if you keep doing the same thing over and over again every day, but you expect something different to happen, he's in Einstein's words, it's the definition of insanity. So to wrap up that point of living on edge and hypervigilance, even though it's still something that's widely practiced in my household and is still part of my family's culture, I just don't want that. And I don't want my kids to grow up like that, where they're constantly anxious, where they're constantly feeling like something's gonna go wrong, or just having that OCD behavior where they're too overprotective and they overthink everything. I don't want that for my kids. So I'm still in the process of unlearning it. I've come miles away from what I was, but I still have to perfect it a little bit more because my kids are young. So that's the second point. And fifth point, if we're adding on from last session. The next point is an interesting one. Like I mentioned on our previous session, that most of the points were kind of overlap or intertwine with one another. So the next point today is the fear of explosive conflict. Now hear me out. The fear of explosive conflict, meaning we have this, well, not as much me because I was the one that would be explosive, but a lot of my family members, including my parents, in fact, my parents and my siblings, they'd have this fear of not saying anything to the individual or even asking for a favor because they'd have this fear that that individual's going to explode. Not just me. It could be one of my sisters. It could be my younger brother. So if they needed that individual to do something, or they wanted to ask them just to move their car, or can they bring this to the house when they're coming around, they'd have this fear and this anxiety of don't tell them or don't ask them because they're going to explode. And they genuinely be anxious and afraid. So the anxious could relate back to the hypervigilance of the previous point. But it was also a general thing where if nothing's going on and it's just a normal thing, they'd be afraid to speak to the individual because they'd be afraid that that person's going to explode. And if they explode with their rage and their anger, they disrespect, they swear, they'll get abusive. Like that fear aspect, it kept us from communicating with small things. I've grown up watching my parents say, don't say this to that person because he's not gonna like it. Like if somebody's eating second plate and you say as a joke oh, you fatty, we was told not to say that because the person's gonna get in a mood. Like it was always this weird barrier where we wouldn't speak to each other because we think that person's gonna just blow up. So that is something I am trying to unlearn. And to be honest, I have kind of unlearned in my own circles, in my own life. But when it comes back to going to my family home where I came from, it's not that I fear the explosive conflict, because I'll be honest, I don't really care if they like what I've got to say or not. But out of respect for my parents, I just choose not to say anything. It's better to have no drama. Like, when I go visiting from London to Manchester, what's the point going there, triggering someone, provoking them just to get my point across? What's the point triggering them, disturbing the peace, and then flying back to Manchester and I've left everyone there upset? I mean, flying back to London and leaving people upset and disorientated. It's not worth it. So out of respect for my parents, I just don't say anything. But that is something that I had to unlearn, and I'm grateful that I have. The next point I'm going to mention is very important. Now, this is quite common in people in general, but it was extreme in my household. I had to unlearn the habit of people pleasing. Now, there's different types of people pleasing, but in my family home, it was a way of feeling valued. Like, like, I've seen multiple members of my family, and when I was young, I was that type as well, where we wanted to feel safe in our own being, in our own values and who we are. It's like, because we didn't get the reassurance from each other, we didn't have that positive uplifting where we'd raise each other's confidence and esteem by, giving each other affirmations or just saying well done type of words. Like, these things didn't exist. We didn't used to say, oh, well done, or I'm proud of you, or congratulations. Them terminologies didn't exist. Like, I can say, like, my siblings and my parents, they didn't even pay attention to my GCSEs or my college education and stuff. Like, no one really cared. Like, like, I'd come home and I'd say, yeah, I passed this and I did this test. It's just like, oh, well done, and that's it. There's no like hype. There's no there's no like enthusiasm in that. So, like, because we didn't get it from each other, like siblings or parents, everyone used to do it with outside external people. That people please just to get some validation and some sort of recognition and praise. And it's sad to say that, because it's like now that I've unlearned that habit, I don't really care if people outside like me or not. If you're not in my inner circle, I couldn't give a shit, to be honest. Like, the people that I want to like me is my wife and my kids, like, when it comes to people. So when it comes to external people, you're not gonna please everyone. It doesn't work like that. There's always gonna be someone who is not happy with you, is disappointed with you, even just the way you look. There's going to be people out there that's not going to like you for who you are, the way you look. So what's the point trying to live your life to please other people and disturbing your own inner peace, making yourself miserable in the process? Because it's never going to be satisfying for you. Even if every single person you interact with likes you, praises you, gives you a pat on the back, there's always going to be one individual who's going to just kill the momentum. One person's going to come along and just give you a dirty look. What's the point letting somebody else dictate your life, your mood, your feelings, the way you feel about yourself, just because they don't like you? It's not good. And I've come from a household where it was part of the family culture again. Everyone used to people please, whether it was out of fear or whether it was out of wanting to feel recognition and praise. It was something that was widely practiced in my family, and I had to unlearn that because it really disturbed my own inner peace. So that is something else I had to unlearn, and it was very, very powerful unlearning it, because it helped me in multiple other ways, like with anxiety. It helped me with being confident in my own abilities and my own self. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, that's the next point I just wanted to get across. I'm going to finish off with one final point for this video. because this one's not as detailed as the last episode, as you can tell. But I've kind of like just briefly touched up on every point. So the final one I'm going to touch upon is family structure. As I've said, like I've come from a big family, both parents, 9 kids, and in a household where it's so busy and so active, there has to be some form of order. Now, whether you come from a big family or a small family, there's supposed to be a structure in terms of hierarchy and who plays what role. Does that make sense? Like the mother is supposed to play a certain role, the father is supposed to play a certain role, but even within them two roles, there's the relationship they have with each other, there's the relationship they have with their kids. You understand? Now, we don't need to get into the technicalities of the parents right now, but just understand that they're at the top of the pyramid. Then you'd have the older siblings. Then you'd have the middle-aged siblings and the lower siblings, whatever it is. But there's supposed to be a structure, like how is the discipline in the home? Discipline doesn't mean punishment. Discipline means like, is things organized, and do people contribute into the teamwork of things? Like, is someone's doing the cooking, is someone washing the dishes, is somebody doing the hoovering, is somebody helping the younger siblings with the homework, etc. There's different roles to play. So discipline, me in this sense, I'm talking about it just being on point. Do you understand? And you know what I mean. And then obviously, if you want to talk about discipline in terms of punishment, it doesn't mean physical punishment. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I did experience that. Some of us did, and that's not the right way. Well, everyone's got their own opinion, but what I'm saying is there an structure when it comes to punishment? Because for us, there wasn't. It was just like they've got frustrated, you'll get a whip or a slap or just thrown. Like for me, I got put in a freezer on that, man. Like it was going back to the explosive emotions. Like instead of them teaching and disciplining and punishing in the right way, they'd explode with their emotions. Do you understand what I'm saying? And another aspect of the family structure would be, do we have, like, is there a mutual respect between siblings, and is there a different sort of respect in terms of respecting your elders, or even for the elders to respect the younger ones? Do they respect the younger ones' views and their way of living? Because a 50-year-old man can't expect a 19-year-old to think exactly like them. I'm not getting the ages right, but there's a big gap basically between my eldest sibling and my youngest. But my eldest sibling can't expect my youngest sibling to think like him. He's at a completely different stage in his life to the older one. Does that make sense? Like where I am in my life now, I can't be on the same caliber as a 60-year-old man. I'll take words of wisdom from him, but there's a lot of things that I'm just not going to be able to comprehend or think like him. Or even my age now, I'm not going to be able to fathom the way 12-year-olds think or behave. Yeah, I've come from that, but I'm not there anymore. So I'm not going to think like a teenager. Does that make sense? So there was no structure in terms of who plays what role, who respects who listens to who disciplines who, how the house is in order, etc. It was just like a free house basically, like, and occasionally you overstep someone's line and they have their outburst. So this is something that I had to unlearn, because in our religion we are taught to respect our elders. In our religion we are taught that Jannah, heaven, lies underneath the mother's feet. Like, that's how much reverence and respect the mother's supposed to have. You know, a father is supposed to teach, discipline, spend time with his children. Didn't really see much of that. You know, we didn't really have that respect with each other. Like siblings, I didn't really, like my elder siblings didn't teach me right from wrong. They didn't spend time with me, educating me, spending quality time, etc. I just remember my younger sister playing with her when I was a kid, but the older siblings all did their own thing. So there was no structure, there was no order, and I seen how much it caused segregation. So going back to a previous episode where we mentioned one of the points of segregation, this is another thing that contributed to that. The family structure was not on point, and I wanted to unlearn that, because when I grew up, when I was a kid, I used to think, when I grow up, I'm gonna want to do things differently. Like, you could even ask my wife if you know her. Like, I always, when I first got with her, I kept telling, before I even had kids, I'd say that I can't wait to be a granddad. Like, not because I want to be old, it's just that, it's because, because that figure in my home, he had such a golden opportunity to keep everyone together and united and strong. But just buying houses for everyone and expecting them to live close by but not communicating or spending time with them, it's not going to keep them close. Do you get it? Like, you can't expect to be close to someone if you don't chat to them, if you don't bond with them, if you don't have a laugh with them, if you don't teach them things and have heart-to-heart conversations. Does that make sense? So a family structure is something that I had to learn, as an adult, and I'm still learning as I go along now. The importance of having the right hierarchy within the home, the right order, the right discipline, how things operate within the home, how you are with your spouse, how you are with your kids. It's something that I unlearned from my childhood and what I came from, and I'm learning a new type of structure within my home now. But yeah, it is what it is. I've probably got a few more points, but as you can tell, I'm a bit half-hearted today. I'm just kind of just briefly mentioning the points and just giving you small examples. The next couple of points that we have, I'm going to save for our next episode. We probably got 5 or 6 more points, but they're things that really affected me the most, and I'm going to save them for another time where my head's a bit more in it. But yeah, I thought I'd just do this episode just to quickly get it over and done with, because I don't want to waste too much time. If I'm honest with you, I'm more eager to get guests in instead of sitting here talking to myself. So I'm going to wrap it up for now, and we'll continue with the final points in our next episode. As always, guys, if you've got any positive feedback or general feedback, please drop them in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, share this video, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.